Let's hear now from the Biden campaign. Joining me is Quentin Fulks, Principal Deputy Campaign Manager. Quentin, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Kristen.
So since last night's news conference, we have seen 5 House Democrats come out and say that the president should end his campaign. The goal, obviously, of that press conference was to stop the calls from growing. Did the press conference fail?
Well, the goal of the press conference was to talk to the American people about NATO and the stakes of foreign policy in America and President Biden's leadership in doing it. And I think that the president did that. In doing so, he also stood up for nearly an hour, a press conference, and answered some of the most difficult questions about some of the most complex issues facing our country. And he did so by answering a wide array of questions from reporters. Obviously, we know the subject matter of those questions, but I think that the president did exactly what he went out there to do last night, and that is to draw the stakes of this election about what his predecessor did, as he would say in an official speech, in his vision about what is going on in this country, about his command over the issues leading America, not just foreign, but also here domestically at home. And so that is what the president intended to do last night, and that's exactly what he did.
Quentin, you know, as you know, there has been a lot of discussion and intense focus on the language that he used last night. He said, look, if my team shows me that I can't win, then maybe I would consider getting out of the race. My question for you, is this a closed matter for him? Is there any way, and because there is conflicting data, as we laid out at the top, there's a lot of new data coming in. Has he completely shut the door on changing his mind, on passing the torch?
Yes. Yes. President Biden is the Democratic nominee. It has always been his decision to make. But even let's take a step back from that, Kristen. It's his decision to make because the voters made their decision. And of the 14 million votes cast in the Democratic process, Joe Biden won 87% of them. Of the delegates that were given out, Joe Biden has 3,900 of them. That is why Joe Biden has the decision to make, the power to make this decision, and that's exactly what he's doing. And I am a member of the president's team. And so when the president says to you that his team is not giving him that or not coming to him and saying, you can't win, it's because we are not. President Biden is in this race, and our campaign is going to continue to do what we have set out to do from the moment he announced re-election. We have built this campaign to be in a fight in a very close election, which we knew would be close before the debate, and that remains true now. And so we're going to continue to draw the contrast every single day of President Biden's agenda for America and that in Donald Trump and Project 2025.
What do you say to the argument, though, that there wasn't necessarily a competitive primary? Sure, you had one competitor, Dean Phillips, but this wasn't exactly the type of open primary that you are talking about with a robust number of candidates in some states. The rules were changed. I mean, what do you make of that argument?
I would say to that argument, and not to be defiant at all, but when we talk about rules, the rules have been the same for every single presidential election, and anyone could have challenged President Biden. Any Democrat could have stepped up to challenge President Biden. The ones who wanted to do that did so. And we are in this place where, again, as I reiterate, President Biden won 87% of 14 million votes, and our campaign steered him to that because we have been set out with a singular vision, which is, again, drawing the contrast in the stakes of this election and what Donald Trump wants to do by ripping away women's reproductive freedoms, by continuing to put a burden on the middle class while the wealthiest and big corporations get ahead, and continuing to incite violence and political extremism across this country. And so we have been prepared to do that since day one. We're prepared to continue to do it, and that is where our focus remains from now until November.
Quentin, let me show you some of what my NBC News colleagues are reporting and just get your reaction on the other side. This is from Biden campaign staffers this week. One person saying, quote, he needs to drop out. That's a Biden campaign official. Another saying he will never recover from this. No one involved in the effort thinks he has a path, said a second person working to elect him. Is there a thread of concern throughout the campaign, throughout campaign staffers who you were talking to?
Not that it's being voiced to me. And again, it's hard to address things like that because, again, it's hearsay. We don't see names on these statements. They're rumors and gossip mills, and all we can continue to do is do our job. But I am a member of the president's reelection campaign team, a leader on it, and I'm saying that I do think that he has a path. I know that he has a path. I've seen the numbers. And so, again, our campaign is focused. We're going to be honest and level with our staff. We are going to continue to do the work. This is a margin of error race. It has been since the outset of this. It's exactly where it is today, and we're focused on continuing to fundraise, continuing to build a campaign apparatus and infrastructure to draw the contrast between President Biden and Donald Trump.
Quentin, lay it out for me. What is the path? Because he was behind heading into the debate. He has slipped, albeit it is not a dramatic shift. But as you know, the numbers have gotten tougher for President Biden, including in some battleground states, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, now leaning Republican as opposed to being toss-up. What exactly does the path look like?
Well, first of all, in 2022, I was in Georgia, which is also a battleground state for us now. And people told me that the path was tough. I think people told Democrats across the country that the path was tough. In fact, some might have said there was no path. Yet here we are with the most successful midterm under President Biden's leadership than any since 1934. But the path, quite simply, look, we're not being Pollyannish about it. This is basic math. I mean, I could spit off the states to you. It's the blue wall, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, also the Sun Belt states, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina. We are very bullish. We believe that voters across this country understand what's at stake. They understand the danger that Donald Trump and Project 2025 that was written for him, they understand what it is. And so this is the contrast that we have to continue to draw by pointing out the work that the president has done and the danger that Donald Trump poses to this democracy and that he wakes up every single day thinking about.
Quentin, very quickly before I let you go, can you respond to, give us details about the reporting that the campaign has quietly run the numbers on Vice President Harris to see how she would do against former President Trump? What is the purpose of that? Is there a real consideration about passing the baton to her?
Well, there is no consideration about passing the baton to her because President Biden has made his decision. And at the end of the day, Vice President Harris is on the ticket. This is something that campaigns do. She is a member of this team. She is out all the time as one of our lead surrogates talking about the issues, women reproductive freedom. She is all across this country communicating with voters. And she's faced a barrage of attacks recently. And so this is standard run-of-the-mill, campaign things that happen behind the scenes with all of our principals, with surrogates, who are the best allies to get out talking about your points. And we know that just like every other campaign. And I think that a spotlight unfairly has been put on this because of the dynamics that have been taking place in the media over the past week. But that's all that is. But President Biden is the nominee, and we're going to continue to run this campaign as such.
Quentin Fulks, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for all of that information. And we will have our own poll coming out on Sunday, so make sure to tune in to Meet the Press for that. And make sure to tune in on Monday for Lester Holt's exclusive sit-down interview with President Joe Biden. Watch a preview on NBC Nightly News and then the full unedited interview in a primetime special at 9 p.m. Eastern on NBC and NBC News Now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.